let's go, because you know what I came here to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
I thought Fury was this big superstar, according to Bob Arum and Frank Warren. But it looks like Fury ain't nobody in America, despite wiping out Wilder twice over there, which is no small feat. I'm not shitting on it. It's a big feat. And then Ngannou, people keep telling me about how great UFC is compared to boxing, and there ain't no Ronda Rousey there no more as far as I know, or Conor McGregor. All I kept hearing about was Ngannou, the heavyweight champion, the man killer. So we get these two stars from the boxing and MMA world. It did 11.5 thousand on TV pay-per-view buys in the United States and 56,000 on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Just as well that Turkey Al-Sheikh and his organisation are paying up them fat site fees and not really looking for no big returns. Because if it was up to ESPN and TNT having to balance the books with them pay-per-view numbers, with all they shelled out for that event in Riyadh, probably wouldn't be getting no Fury and USYK fight. Because their true market value, USYK and Fury, we'd probably see both of them walk away from the table. Is that all you're paying me? Yeah, that's all the fight's worth. They said the $79.99 price tag was too high. They also attacked the poor quality undercard, saying nobody knew anyone on the undercard. Well, look, before some people in America, not all, you know what I mean? Before you start tearing into the undercard saying, we don't know who Adelaide and Wardley and Bacoli and Takam, we don't know these European heavyweights. Well, I could talk about Deontay Wilder's last pay-per-view numbers or Andy Ruiz's last pay-per-view figures, but forget them because they're ex-champions. But let's go look at the American heavyweights. Jared Anderson, who else is there? Richard Torres. None of their presence on the Ngannou Fury undercard would help the numbers increase either, and they fight exclusively on American Network. Come to think of it, both of them fight on ESPN. If you knew you were selling the fight back to America, why did you put these Europeans on the card? Why didn't Bob put Jared Anderson or Richard Torres on there? He keeps saying Eddie Hearn doesn't know the American market, when it looks like he's too old for the job himself. Didn't I see F.A. AJAGBA fighting on some, I'm not going to say obscure, but a card that the world weren't talking about yesterday, thumping somebody up? How comes he wasn't on the card? What's the truth? His presence wouldn't have made the numbers increase either. You can never get no ballpark of what the figures are in the UK early. You know, so I don't know what it done on TNT. I'm assuming it done a little better in the UK than it did in America. I mean, at $21.95 a pop, they want to be hitting at least 500k at a minimum, and that's not a success. It's not a success. Not in terms of numbers that British fighters have done. It's mainly Anthony Joshua. It's not a success, but I'll be on the lookout to see what the TNT numbers were. What I will question from some Americans who follow boxing, who have been critiquing the zone harshly since it started. Let's keep it real. You don't want to see Europeans, you don't want to see Japs, you don't want to see Brits, you don't want to see none of these other nations box. But do you actually want to see American boxers fight either? You know, Al's not in the business of outsourcing commodities. But Stephen Fulton is not a draw in America, so we had to send him to Japan, where the money man was Inoue. What happened to Danny Garcia versus Erislandy Lara and Keith Thurman and Floyd Mayweather? What happened to the card? It got dismantled. They have to rebuild it. How come you can't get Boots Ennis to fight? But anyone looking to do a double header with Danny Garcia and Erislandy Lara fighting for the middleweight title has got to have rocks for brains. Oh yeah, and Floyd was supposed to be on there. I'm assuming it won't be pay-per-view. They're talking about David Morrell, but who's he going to be fighting? And Chris Colbert and Jose Valenzuela. It's rescheduled for December the 16th in Minneapolis. I mean, no disrespect, Morrell's a good prospect, one of the best prospects in the world, but this isn't exactly going to set the world alight. It's not even exactly going to set America alight, that card. Let's keep it real. One of the reasons why Andy Ruiz and Wilder are so inactive is that you put them on television and make it pay-per-view. It's not going to sell. It's just going to highlight the lack of interest for these fighters that some of the fan bases overinflate on how good they are or how huge their market worth is. Wilder and Ruiz, they probably both got unrealistic expectations for the fight to happen. what, at $80 a piece, you're going to sell how much? You'll be lucky if you sell 150k. So they're probably both expecting all 20 million a piece. They need to start from a base minimum guarantee of at least 3 before they can even start negotiating that fight. But a lot of American fighters have unrealistic expectations. That's the truth. Demetrius Andrade has been a pro since 2008. He headlines his first pay-per-view against David Benavidez on the 28th of November on the PBC. Slow burn, Demetrius, slow burn. How much pay-per-views is that going to do? I mean, what's the pricing? I tried to find the pricing, but if it's at $79, $80, it's going to flop and it's going to hurt the marketability of both fighters. It's also going to reaffirm that investing in American boxing is just like tossing money into a bonfire. You know, I mean, Al Heyman is supposed to be trying to sell his product to Netflix. How are you going to sell it at the same time you're trying to sell pay-per-views with David Benavidez and Andrade for $80? Like, bloody hell. It's like, wow, it's mind-boggling. Is that supposed to entice them to give Al the bag when they see this? If Eubank Jr. and KALLE don't turn up with their paperwork signed and this fight doesn't happen, then isn't Eddie Hearn going to get it loads from everybody, both barrels? And he'll deserve it. Because Eddie and Conor Benn are saying the fight is basically made. But if that's the case, why haven't both parties come out and said it simultaneously at the same time? Wouldn't that make more sense? Why not announce it when all parties have got all the paperwork signed up? You can't announce it when just your party have got the paperwork signed up. So I don't get that. Yeah, where's KALLE? Where's Chris Jr.? So January, I believe, is the projected date, and that will be at the Millennium Cardiff. The other date is February the 3rd, and if they get that date, it will be at the Spurs ground, White Hart Lane. Senior, he's still bunning the fight down. He doesn't want it to happen. He said it's criminal. There's weight classes for a reason. He's proposing that Harlem Eubank, his nephew, Chris's cousin, instead fight Conor Benn. It looks like they're going to bump Harlem up to 147 in hopes of getting that fight. Chris has recently been installed as part of Harlem Eubank's management team. He said something like he's his son now. I don't know what the relationship between him and his son Junior is like now. I haven't got a clue. And I saw Harlem as Senior on Good Morning TV. And Harlem's going along with it. He wants to fight Conor. But he seems like perhaps he's just going along with it. What I don't get is, how does Harlem, promoted by KALLE Sauerland, who also promotes Junior, who we're hearing is going to sign paperwork to fight Conor Benn, how are both of you aligned to the same promoter, but yet you're calling for a fight with Conor that we're hearing Chris is on the verge of signing? Now, having Chris on board in the management capacity is good, because without Chris, there's no way Harlem Eubank would have got on Good Morning TV. There's just no way. No way. So Chris can get Harlem's name in places where Harlem couldn't dream of. I have a feeling that Chris and Harlem have started bonding since Harlem's dad, Simon Eubank, who used to box professionally himself, passed away earlier this year. You know, calling out Conor is raising Harlem's profile, no doubt. Maybe KALLE is orchestrating that, like saying, yeah, call him out, and they're still going to make the Conor Benn fight. Maybe KALLE's orchestrating it with Chris. Yes, it's good to have Chris on board. He ruffles feathers. He makes people want to click videos. He makes headlines. He's eccentric. He's English, as he calls himself. Hopefully, though, his mannerisms and ways do not become an obstruction in Harlem's career, as he's been accused of doing with his son's career, where Eubank Jr. and Senior have been on the wrong side of Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. Frank was frustrated with Eubank because, you know, the Billy Joe Saunders rematch was basically done and dusted. The Seniors started making ridiculous demands. It didn't happen. They withdrew from the fight with Tommy Langford, and obviously Eubank Senior and Junior had issues with Hearn, and the Golovkin fight, which Kell Brook ended up taking.
And Harlem, Eubank.
And Harlem is 30 years of age. He's no kid. He is no kid. He's no kid. So they need to get a move on. And he doesn't need anybody in the camp. I'm not accusing Eubank Senior, because I know a lot of people are going to jump in beats because say about Senior. I didn't say anything. He doesn't need anyone over negotiating for him at this stage. I don't think the Conor Benn fight is on the cards now. A better fight, and a big fight as well, would be Harlem versus Dalton Smith for the British and Commonwealth junior welterweight titles. It's a very good fight. Dalton 15-0, 11 inside the distance. He holds both them titles. Harlem 18-0, 7 inside the distance. That'd be a really good fight. And then, you know, I'm not even saying do it so you can get the Conor Benn fight, but just to advance his own career. That'd be a great fight. It's an excellent fight. And he'd be able to call out a lot of welters and junior welters. Not just Conor. It would just open up his options if he was able to beat Dalton Smith. And that's the fight Hearn, not just now, has been proposing, but for a little while. But we'll see. Harlem fights next week on Channel 5 at the Brighton Centre, Brighton, next Friday, against Timo Schwarzkopf from Germany. 22 fights, 13 inside the distance, 5 defeats. They got my man Sultan Zarbek from Kazakhstan. Very aggressive, very powerful, well worth the watch. 15-0, 11 inside the distance. Yeah, I'll be watching. He's definitely good to watch. They've got Roman Fury on there, one of the Fury brothers. Is he a cruiserweight? Having his third fight. I'll probably go live on that card. Next week, God willing. Now, Daniel Dubois last June, he blew Trevor Bryan away in 4 rounds. Now, Trevor got a bit of lumber off for that fight, about 9 pounds off, and he's come back yesterday to take on Cassius CHEYNEY, and he was knocked out pretty bad in the 7th and stretchered out on a donking card in Miami. And he looked grossly out of shape. I didn't see the whole of the fight, just the round where he was knocked out. And you can't always go by what a heavyweight's weight is, I guess, but after being knocked out like that, maybe the commission should ask questions. Are you in shape to get back in the ring? You're heavier than when you came in the ring last time and got knocked out. I'm asking a little too much, to be honest. I'm going too far with that, but yeah, he got stretchered out in the ring. It was a good knockout to watch. It says here that Bryan was knocked down in the 2nd from an uppercut, survived an onslaught in the 3rd, gained some momentum in the 4th that would carry him through to the 7th round, where CHEYNEY found that left hook that bounced Bryan into the ropes before he fell face first onto the canvas. Junior MAKABU, he was TKO'd on the same card for the vacant WBC title that he lost to Badou Jack in February of this year. I didn't realise Jack vacated the title. Looks like he's going for that Bridgerweight title against that Polish fighter. Yeah, it looks like MAKABU, his punch resistance is all over the place now. What qualified him to fight for the vacant title after getting knocked out by Badou Jack last time out? What qualified him to get a shot at this guy? Don King still pulling strings. Nonir McAljan is the one who dusted off MAKABU. 27-2 with 12 inside the distance. Right, I'm realizing that McAljan is NOELGERVOR. And I did see him fight Maris Bradis a few years back, and I believe Gervor or McAljan was robbed. So I do actually know who he is. Ireland's Tommy McCarthy's team threw in the towel after a relatively tame effort to try and take the European Cruiserweight title against MICHAL. It ended in the 7th round when Shalak turned up the volume, 1 knockdown, and in a flurry, then the towel came in. As Tommy McCarthy was actually throwing a few shots back. You know, for the most part, he tried to counter, threw some good replies, some good body punches, but Shalak stalked him and basically took him out as soon as he stepped up the gas. So he defended that European title in Poland. Joe Cordina called Edward Vasquez a sore loser after defeating Vasquez via majority decision. Well, Vasquez had reason to be sore. Definitely had a reason. I thought he nicked it. Barry Jones thought he nicked it. Some people thought Cordina got it. Some people thought it was a draw. It wasn't a robbery. Cordina wasn't able to box his man at range, although he had the reach and height. He wasn't able to do that. He was forced into brawls, which he often was outwitted and outlanded Joe qualified his victory by saying he hasn't got a mark on his face, and just look at the other guy's face. Hey, it was a very good fight. I'm glad Cordina kept his title, to be honest. I was hoping it would be a draw and he'd keep his title, and he goes on. So we're talking about Lee Wood moving up to face him, or the unification with Oshaki Foster. FA AJAGBA, he seems to be, is the word, at peace with himself. I don't want to sound too bohemian. Came out with the rapper dancing, but he looked focused. His jab, his 1-2 dominated. My criticism early was it looked too practiced and rehearsed, and it wasn't really working. It wasn't instinctive. There was no improvisation there at all. But now he's just going out there and doing what comes naturally. Let's throw that jab and that 1-2, and that stab to the body is also very good. His head movement, he's never going to have great head movement. And how long is his reach? It's recorded at 85 inches. Alongside Tyson Fury, that's the longest reach in the weight class. So his defense is keeping you at bay behind that jab, basically. But on occasion, he'll move back in straight lines and get caught. Like he got caught with that 1-2 from Goodall, his Australian opponent, while he was lazily just waiting around with his back to the ropes. Goodall, who they're saying is 6'5.5", he certainly didn't look 6'5". FA looked a lot taller, and FA is registered as 6'6". Goodall, it was tough for him because he couldn't get past the jab, and the range he was boxing FA at left him as a sitting target. When he did try and close the gap, he got caught by that right uppercut, which is a really good weapon for FA, really good weapon. And he couldn't do much up close, and he couldn't do much at range. In the fourth round, FA just put his punches together like he did all night. Goodall's legs buckled all around the place, and he tried to survive, and Tony Weeks stepped in. And it was a very accomplished performance against a decent fighter in Joseph Goodall. And in my opinion, FA looked good against Kosobotsky before this fight here. And yes, he's ready for the top names. He's definitely ready for the top names. Whether he's going to get the fights or not, we'll have to see. He does look like a threat. He does look like a threat now, but we have to see him against one of them top 5 guys to really know what we have. Sivanathi Notshinga, IBF light flyweight champion, was sensationally knocked out in the second round by ADRIAN CURIEL from Mexico. CURIEL was a big underdog, 24-4-1, only 5 inside the distance. Both men 24 years of age. Basically, Notshinga got timed by a right hand over the top of his jab. As he was moving to his left, he threw the jab, and his head followed the line of the jab to his left, and CURIEL timed it perfectly. He was just exposed, and bang. Great shot. Matchroom and DAZN gave Notshinga the big build-up, and in the second round he just got taken out. CURIEL looked considerably shorter, but you know, he stayed on Notshinga's chest all the way through as much as he could, and while Notshinga was winning the fight, CURIEL knew how to get close to him. He was cutting the ring down, not giving Notshinga time to breathe. You know what I mean? Making him work a lot earlier than he would have wanted to so early in the fight. Trying to force mistakes out of the South African kid. And the strategy worked to perfection. Alexander Usyk makes controversial comparison between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. What's controversial about it is what I'm trying to work out. He said, I am sorry to say this. There is no way to compare Dubois and Joshua because they are completely different fighters, different skills, different styles, totally different boxers. To be fair, I don't think Dubois can reach Joshua's level. I'm sorry for saying this, but this is what he believes to be the truth. Yeah, tell us something we didn't know. They asked you a question and you answered it to the best of your ability. When he was asked who would win a fight out of Wilder and Joshua, he said Wilder. He wasn't sorry about saying that. Why be sorry here? It is what it is. You got opinions? Voice your opinion. Eddie Hearn said he's going to put in an offer to Top Rank in the next few days to stage the Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall rematch. Now, the fight will be 2 years old in February. Jack should have got the decision. It was a close fight though. Josh Taylor obviously wasn't enthusiastic to take the rematch. Instead, he went and lost his final strap against Teofimo Lopez. getting totally outclassed. There's no belt on the line for CATTERALL versus Taylor. It doesn't do anything in America to move the needle. What would Bob's motivation be to make that fight? I'm not too sure. I don't think Josh Taylor wants to take it. He hasn't fought since the Teofimo Lopez fight. I think his confidence is very low. His last two performances have been less than stellar. Eddie's got light welters at Matchroom. Like Sandor Martin, he's got a date penciled in this year. Somewhere hidden away. Was it in Italy or somewhere? I mean, Richardson Hitchens, he's looking for a fight, a big fight. Got light welters there. We'll see how Josh Taylor responds. If he doesn't respond, then them other options I mentioned there, all in-house, will still be there. The bottom line is Josh Taylor doesn't want the fight.